Myself, Savita Patil, Assistant Professor, Government Degree College, Kamalapur. Welcome to the today's session. In my today's class, we shall see the concept of GST. This Goods and Services Tax. ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳೇ ನಾವು ಇಂದಿನ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ GST ಎಂದರೇನು, ಅದು ಯಾಕೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಯಿತು, what are the various reasons to introduce the GST, that various things we shall discuss in my today's class. Here, the GST has been introduced due to one nation, one tax. ವಿವಿಧ ತೆರಿಗೆಗಳನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದು ಒಂದೇ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಒಂದೇ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಎಲ್ಲ GST ಇದರಲ್ಲೇನೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಒನ್ ನೇಷನ್ ಒನ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಾಯಿತು. ಇದು ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ದಿಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಬೇಸಿಸ್. Okay, this is what the brief introduction of GST. Here now let us see that is the brief introduction of GST. The GST is implemented in the year 2017. It will help to create a unified common national market for India, one nation, one tax. Okay, this has been implemented for what purpose? To implement that is one nation, one tax. It helps in eradicating the poverty and helps to increase the employment opportunities. How the GST will help us means to, that is the eradicate the poverty, and it also helpful to increase the employment opportunities. GST is a value added tax levied at all points in the supply chain with credit allowed for any tax paid on input acquired for use in making the supply. It would apply to both goods and services in a comprehensive manner with the exemption restricted to a minimum. GST is a value-added tax, that is and it is levied at all points in the supply chain. That is, we know what will be the supply chain. It will start from the, that is the manufacturer, producers, wholesaler, retailer, and the ultimate consumer. This is called as the supply chain with the credit allowed for any tax paid or input acquired for use in making the supply. It would apply to both goods and services in a comprehensive manner with exemptions that is restricted to a minimum. This is what the brief introduction, that is how why in the year the 2017 the GST has been implemented. To introduce one nation and one tax, and also we can understand with the introduction of the GST is helpful to eradicate the poverty, and also it's helpful to increase the employment opportunities. Now let us see the definition. Goods and services tax is defined as the gained indirect tax structure designed to support and enhance the economic growth of a country. GST is consumption-based tax, and therefore it wholly depends on the purchasing power of consumer. Purchasing power of consumer depends on the employment, and employment depends on the economy. So you may say that GST collections depends on economy or vice versa. Now let us understand the definition of GST line by line. Here the goods and services tax is defined as the gained indirect tax structure designed to support and enhance the economic growth of a country. See, we all know that is the tax is the one of the most important revenue for the government. Here the GST will helpful for the government to increase the revenue. GST is consumption based tax, already we know, and therefore it wholly depends on the purchasing power of consumer. That is, if the consumer had the high purchasing power, he has to pay the high tax. Okay, purchasing power of consumers depends on the employment, and employment depends on the economy. Definitely. So it's said that the GST collections depend on the economy and the vice versa. This is what the definition of GST. Now let us understand that is from how it is introduced and how it is implemented. GST timeline in India, that is first GST committee has been established, that is Vijay Kilkar task force is formed in 2003 And in 2004, GST is declared essential to reform Indian tax structure compulsorily. And also in the 2006, GST is proposed for the first time. And in the 2008, EC finalized the GST model. Then in 2009, the first discussion paper is released. And in 2010, GST implementation is postponed. And in 2011, 115 Constitution Amendment Bill is introduced. And in 2012, Standing Committee discusses GST Bill. And in 2013, Standing Committee tables the report in Parliament. And in 2014, 122nd Constitution Amendment Bill is introduced, and GST Bill is passed in Lok Sabha in 2015, and in 2016 GST Bill is passed in Rajya Sabha, and finally on 1st July 2017 GST is implemented. This is what the cycle. It has been introduced in the 2003 and is introduced, and finally so many years has been taken place with the so many oppositions. That is it, finally the finance minister and the prime minister is successful in implementing the GST in the month of July 2017. Now let us see the main features of the GST are: GST has led to the subsuming of 17 different indirect taxes at the central and the state level. There are totally, we have to understand that there are different indirect 17 indirect taxes at the central and the state level. GST is consumption based tax. GST led to one country one tax rate system implemented across the country. Before introducing in India the GST, in already so many countries it has been implemented, and successfully they are getting the revenue based on that reports. In our country has also tried to implement the GST. Taxes imposed on supply of goods or services. No differentiation between goods or services. Both are treated one and the same. It's a comprehensive tax levied on all goods and services. Most importantly, that is stopped the earlier tax on the tax structure. GST led to the free flow of credit. GST is collected on the value addition at every step of the supply chain. GST is multi-stage. However, input tax credit mitigates the imposition of extra taxes. These are the various important features of the GST that we have understood. Now let us see. What are the various advantages of GST? Removing the cascading effect of tax. The first is that is here there are so many taxes are there. With that now it is very easy that all the taxes has been included in one big, that is called as the goods and services tax, that is the GST. Okay. Then the higher threshold for the GST registration. Then the composition scheme for small business, very helpful for the small businesses because the composition scheme has been introduced in the GST. Simple online facilities for GST compliance. Uh, the online facility is there. It's also very simple also. Relatively lesser compliance under GST. Defined treatment for e-commerce activities. Definitely e-commerce activities. For that there are different components are there under GST. Increased efficiency in logistics, regulating the unorganized sectors. In this way, these are the various advantages of GST. Now let us understand the types of GST, that is CGST, Central GST, or CGST, that is collected by the central government. Here there are three types of GSTs are there. The first one is the central, that is the tax will be collected from the central government, that is called as the CGST, Central GST, or CGST, that is collected by the central government. The next will be the SGST, State GST, or CGST, that is collected by the state government. IGST, or Integrated GST, that is collected by the central government. For example, here the 12% tax is there, and here example the 6% will be go to the central and 6% will be go to the state. In this way the tax has been classified. That is what, this is what the types of the GST. Now Composition of GST Council. Now let us see under the GST Council who are there. This the first one will be the Union Finance Minister Chairperson. He is the chairperson. To be elected Vice Chairperson, Union Revenue Secretary, ex officio Secretary, then the Union Minister of State, that's the Revenue Finance member, the Finance Taxation, any other minister of each state member, Chairman, CB, EC, ex officio permanent invitee. In this way, this is what the big composition of the GST Council had made a lot of efforts to introduce the GST. Now, let us see the GST network. Under the GST, that is, who are the different, how is the network to be worked. Now we shall see. That is the simplicity for taxpayers. Then the autonomy of states, definitely. Uniformity of policy administration, there is a transparency is there. Clear migration strategy to GST. Enable digitization of the whole chain, then the reduce leakages. This is what the GST network we can understand. It's very good. Registration under GST. Who needs to register for GST in India? That is the person deducting TDS under, and the taxable supply 20 lakhs. That is the within 20 lakhs. They have to go for the registration. Then the person who supplies via e-commerce operator and the associate making interstate supply of goods or service. Then the e-commerce operator or aggregator supplying service, and the casual taxable person. Input services distributed, that is non-resident taxpayer who supplies and has no fixed place of business in India. Agents of person who acts on behalf of supplier, that is assessee who pays the tax under reverse charge mechanism. This is what these are the various person who has compulsorily uh, liable to get registered under the GST. Now, GST compensation cess. GST cess is levied on both intrastate and the interstate supply of goods or services to provide compensate to state or loss of revenue due to the implementation of GST. Then the GST compensation cess would be imposed for a period of 5 years from the day of GST implementation. If the funds from GST compensation cess are unutilized, then after the transition period ends, it would be shared equally by the central and the state government. It is applicable on tobacco products, rated waters, etc. This is what the GST compensation says. Dear students, in my today's video, we have discussed, that is the brief introduction of the GST, what that is the meaning and definition of the GST, and the network under the GST, and who are liable to pay the tax and who are get the registration under the GST. The various things, the introductory things related to the GST we have discussed in my today's class. Next things we shall see in my next video. If you liked my video, you have to subscribe my channel. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.